I'm D. Elliott Woods, and you're listening to my man Steve Owens host the greatest podcast in the universe, Fascination Street. Let's get it.
Yeah! AV in your ears, that's Ambush Van giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world with my boy Steve, Fascination Street. You already know, let's get it when you whip in the Fascination Street. What do you...
Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with J. Logan Austin. Logan, who's the president and COO of Crazy Ant Media, which is a production company based out of New Orleans, Louisiana, that helps connect storytellers and industry insiders, as well as inspire and educate people who want to be in the industry. In this episode, we talk about how the company was formed with him and his partner, Dustin Bergman. We talk about why storytelling is so important and why it's important that productions act as a mirror to our current society. We also talk about some of the projects that these guys have in the works, including an hour-long drama series, a short film, a feature film, a half-hour animated comedy series, 2 podcasts. One is about the industry with guests and box office and, rumors and things like that. And the other one is a podcast dedicated to mental health. We talk about all of those things in this episode. He shares some wonderfully touching stories about him and his bride-to-be. They have a wedding coming up soon. And this is my conversation with President and COO of Crazy Ant Media, Logan Austin.
Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, Logan Austin. How you doing today, man?
Oh, I am living the dream. Thank you so much for having me.
100% my pleasure. What is the dream?
I guess to get to a point where you feel like you don't have to worry about anything. I think that's the biggest thing in life that we are all chasing, trying to figure out what we know and what we love and trying to figure out who we are and who we love and just trying to be happy. Mental health is a big thing for me. So happiness and staying on the straight and narrow is definitely the dream.
Wow. That is eloquently put, my friend. I'm going to ask you to repeat all of that again at the end.
I gotcha.
I'm just kidding. Logan, what I like to do is I like to start off from the beginning, man. It helps us understand how the guests got from where they were to where they are. So where were you born and raised, man? Where'd you grow up?
I gotcha. Yeah, I'm from Speedway, Indiana, originally.
Hold on. That's not really a place. Do you mean Indianapolis?
Speedway, Indiana is a little town just outside of Indianapolis. It's where the Indy 500 is located.
Wait, hold on. So the Indy 500 is in Speedway?
Yes, sir.
It's not in Indianapolis.
Nope, it is in Speedway.
That is so confusing. Okay, go ahead.
I grew up about 3 blocks away from the track, which was crazy because you could always tell when a race was coming into town because we would be sitting in our classroom and we could hear the cars going around the track. It's kind of like a anticipation type thing. And it was nice too, because they gave us the weekend off for the race. They kind of made it like a long weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was fun because the whole town just turned into a big block party. Basically, this town is like 2 miles long and 3 miles wide. So to be able to have that sense of community and sense of camaraderie was always really fun in May and throughout the summer too, because they would bring different races to the area so that we would be able to experience them. So that was always pretty fun.
That's rad. I have a previous guest who won the Indy 500 a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
His name is, what is it? It's something weird. Mario Andretti.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar.
Yeah, that dude is rad. Logan, what'd you want to be when you grew up, man? What was the plan?
The initial direction was going to be going into music and being like a music producer because I loved all different kinds of music. I grew up fairly country.
In Indiana, next to a racetrack?
Next to a racetrack, but, just down the road, we had a whole bunch of cornfields and, it was a whole lot of different experiences if you just travel 20 minutes each way. But yeah, I think, music was always a passion of mine. It's always been one of my releases. I felt like, I could sympathize and relate to a lot of different artists out there, especially growing up in the mid 90s, early 2000s era. I am 27. So being able to experience that time period of music, I feel like was very important. Grew up with a lot of Tim McGraw, but then once my stepdad came into the picture, I grew up with a lot of Nirvana and Metallica, leading into like the softer indie rock with Jack Johnson, John Mayer, those type of people. So that always kind of influenced me how I swayed. And then, of course, I love the current versions and old versions of hip hop. So that was always very fun to be able to articulate their formulas and how they would structure their lines in their songs. So that was always very fun. But yeah, music was always kind of the path, right? I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I never really enjoyed school. So I knew I wanted to do something creative. I always loved being hands-on and being able to experience things firsthand. So that was always very fun. But then after I graduated from high school, my parents had already moved down to the New Orleans area. So, I got a job. I was doing the 9 to 5 thing, and it kind of fell through to where I got laid off because there wasn't enough work, to where I was like, you know what? I want a different change of pace. I want to experience something new. Because a lot of my friends who stayed in the hometown, they were just doing the same thing, talking about the same thing. I don't want to say not going anywhere in life, but at that time period in their lives and in mine, I wanted to experience something different.
It's not that they weren't going anywhere. It's just that they weren't taking the necessary steps to move toward the direction they were aiming for. How's that?
Yeah, I feel like they were comfortable. I feel like they were comfortable and didn't necessarily wanted to push out of that box, which there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their own paths in life. So I feel like that is very important to identify which path you want to go down, path of least resistance or path of a lot of resistance. So it's always very interesting balancing that. But then I jumped on a Greyhound bus and came about 12 hours down to the New Orleans area and moved in with my parents, and then started working at a news television station. That's where I fell in love with cameras and storytelling. And that's where I met Dustin, my business partner. And that's kind of where Crazy Ant Media started. And that's where I fell in love with the art of storytelling and movies and different things like that.
How did you end up working do you say a TV station? How'd that happen?
Yes, sir. When I first got down here, I was doing anything I could to try to find a job. Selling DirecTV and Walmarts. I hated to be that person to just walk up to somebody and try to pitch them on something when they're just trying to get their groceries. So that didn't really work out. And I came back home. I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, basically. And my mother, who worked for a t-shirt printing business, was developing an order for the same television station. They were talking back and forth with the representative from the station, and she was talking to him about me and told him my different, interests in life and things like that. And then I applied for the job, said I knew that particular individual, and I was able to get my foot in the door.
So what was the job that you applied for?
So I applied for a news content specialist, which is basically a cameraman in studio and out of studio doing live shots with reporters.
So you had extensive experience operating a camera, one of those giant ass TV cameras?
Now I do. At first, I had no experience in any of these things at all, but they were humble enough to bless me with this opportunity. And like I said, I'm very hands-on and a quick learner. So I was able to pick it up very quick and excel very quickly, leading into editing and audio editing and things like that.
Kick ass. Are you still there? Are you still at the TV station or no?
I am no longer there. I'm trying to do the film stuff full time. So that has been very interesting with all the different strikes and things like that. But just, trying to power through and get ready for the wedding that I have coming up in March. I am engaged currently, and I told you about that off air, but that's been taking up a lot of my time trying to do filmmaking and the business stuff full time and planning the wedding. Because, it's a whirlwind of things going on right now.
Well, let's break some of that down. Let's just assume for the sake of brevity that you left the TV station to work on your business, Crazy Ant Media.
Yes, sir.
Let's just say that's how it went down. You and your partner, Dustin Bergman, Where did you meet him?
So I actually met him at the television station. He was a producer and also an audio engineer. So he would control people's mics when they were set to go on air, go off air, where he would cut them. And then we just started talking about movies. We led in with Marvel because, with that being the pop culture phenomenon that it was.
I'm sorry, did you say Marvel?
Marvel, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Okay, that's an ice cream store up in the east, right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you've heard of those type of films, but yeah, we led in with those, but then we got deeper into the storytelling with like Dead Poet Society, Sleepers, obviously the first initial Godfather. We started talking about all these different things, and then he had a situation in his life where he wanted to get back into filmmaking because it's been a full life journey for him. And, with me just starting out.
Is he roughly your age?
He is actually, because he's my father-in-law, or going to be my father-in-law.
Well, get right on out of the city. That's not going to be interesting at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and Dustin decide you're going to start your own company called Crazy Ant Media. First, why is it called Crazy Ant Media?
So basically, Dustin formed the name. And when a hurricane comes through, crazy ants, they are a real insect, and they come through and they get inside tech.
They're called crazy ants?
Yes, sir. They are yellow ants. Okay. That's where the colors come from as well. They get inside electronics and kind of mess everything up from the water damage. So basically, that's us with the industry. We want to get inside the entertainment industry and kind of shake everything up, tell different new stories with new innovative ideas, because as I'm sure you know, there's a lot of reboots and remakes and things like that right now. So we want to bring new ideas to the table.
So you're saying that as far as creativity, the industry is just repeating itself?
Definitely. I have been very open and kind of loudmouthed about that recently over the past month, 2 months, even though it's been going on longer than that. But we are bringing back old IP, and we are creating IP from already created content. So we are in a very roundabout way creating the same content that we've already seen before.
So you're saying that the industry is repeating itself?
Yes.
So you're saying that the industry is repeating itself?
Yes.
See how annoying that is, industry? Get your head out of your ass.
Exactly.
So you're the president and COO of Crazy Ant Media. Dustin Bergman is the chairman and CEO of Crazy Ant Media. What is the goal for Crazy Ant Media? What are you trying to do?
So basically, we're trying to tell news stories in an innovative way. And
in what way, though? I guess I mean, in what way? Are you guys just sitting down writing poetry?
Well, I think I'm better at poetry than Dustin, so I could be, but I don't know about him. But we're trying to, explore different techniques that may have been put to rest from older times, like, when black and white films were out and different techniques were being used that we're not using today. So I definitely want to re-implement that. And we also love to lend a helping hand to those like myself and to those like Dustin who want to break into the entertainment industry, to give them an opportunity to learn. Right now, we have 3 different interns available to us at Crazy Ant Media that run our social media. But not only do they do that, they are able to reach out to guests for booking the podcast. They are able to go with us on location scouting trips that we have actually coming up next week in New Orleans. And then all of these different aspects, it all depends on what they want to get out of the internship, right? We always have our set goals for them when they first get started. But then we talk to them, we sit down, and we want to know more about what they want to do in their life, in their professional pursuit. So we end up teaching them about different aspects of the filmmaking industry that they would possibly want to carry with them further down the line. So it's always about lending that helping hand for the next generation of filmmakers. So we don't have that type of situation where we do right now with, like the Martin Scorsese's going against all the directors that directed for Marvel, or all of these actors who are coming out against Marvel who don't necessarily feel like Marvel is a creative, storytelling machine. So it's kind of one of those things where we don't want there to be any disrespect about anybody else's styles of filmmaking. You want there to be an open conversation. So I think that's what we're trying to do, trying to have it be easier for people to get experience and for people to realize different points of view of conversation when it comes to filmmaking.
Gotcha. What are you talking about? Martin Scorsese versus everyone. I really don't know what you're talking about. What is that?
All right. So basically right now it started not last year's Oscars, but maybe the year before that, when he got nominated for The Irishman. He basically started talking about how Marvel films don't necessarily have an intertwining story and how they're not necessarily the best style of filmmaking. It is carried on and to where I don't necessarily blame him fully, but I feel like the media conglomerates like Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline, they have carried this type of soundbite and this type of narrative with Martin Scorsese to where every time they talk about him, they have to mention that he doesn't like Marvel, basically. Because recently there was this whole big debate about Martin Scorsese talking about the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe Russo, who directed Endgame and who directed some of the Captain America movies, about how he would not be remembered as a filmmaker 10 years down the line, but Martin Scorsese would be remembered as a filmmaker because of all of his historic movies.
Scorsese said this?
Scorsese said this, yes.
Into a microphone?
And it was either into a microphone or to a person that was writing it all down.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is some wild stuff. I had not heard that at all.
Yeah.
And what is this Actors Against Marvel? Is it sort of the same thing?
A little bit. I feel like they're a little bit more respectful in a sense, because one of my favorite actors right now from The Bear and Shameless and about to be in Iron Claw, Jeremy Allen White.
He's also on that other show that's on right now. It's on, I think it's Apple. It's called, it's got the dumbest name of any TV show I've ever heard of. Fingernails?
Fingernails. I haven't heard of that one.
It's brand new. Maybe it's a movie, but I think it's a weekly thing. Anyway, I'm sorry. It's got a huge cast, all-star cast.
Interesting. I have to check that out. But it was probably a month ago, 3 weeks ago, where he was talking about his acclaim and his stardom as an actor, and his ability to be a good actor shouldn't be measured on whether or not he has done a Marvel film.
This was Jeremy saying this?
Yeah, I'm sure he was persuaded by a question from the press, because I feel like, a lot of press like to get that type of reaction out of people, and they like that soundbite or that headline. So yeah, I don't necessarily think actors are being hardcore disrespectful like that towards Marvel, but I do feel like you're either one side or not, in the sense of you either enjoy superhero movies and participate in them, or don't enjoy them and don't think they're qualified to be prestigious movies, I guess you could say. Because I always remember Timothée Chalamet, he came out and said that my favorite actor, Leonardo DiCaprio, told him, he gave him 2 pieces of advice. I forget the first one. I think it might have been don't do drugs and then don't do superhero movies. Those are the 2 pieces of advice that Leo gave Timothy. But that's what I'm talking about, the type of animosity in the entertainment industry right now between different styles of filmmaking that I feel like need to be a little squashed. Yes, you could be critical, but I don't think you should be slamming different styles of filmmaking, because a lot of people put a lot of time and hard work into these things. So I just feel like it's unnecessary.
And also, a lot of people love those movies.
Exactly.
I think that might be a residual hate, I guess, for the people who claim to be serious actors.
Yeah.
And I think that serious actors have too much dignity to do a fun film. They're always trying to make the next great whatever, The Artist, or
right,
whatever. I mean, give the people what they want, right? Or you're not going to work anymore. You can be the greatest actor in the world, but if nobody sees you do anything, you're going to be waiting tables later.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, to piggyback off that just a tiny bit, Marlon Brando was in the first Superman. So it's like, this is one of the best actors of all time. Everybody puts him up on a pedestal, and rightfully so, but he was in the first Superman with Christopher Reeves. So
yeah.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Hey there, friends. Be sure to check out Everything's Okay, Crazy Ant Media's mental health podcast, all about navigating the twists and turns of our own mental well-being. Join us as we dive into honest conversations, share personal stories, and explore practical tips to help you find your own path to mental wellness. Everything's Okay is your go-to source for inspiration and support on your own mental health journey, because here we know it's not about being perfect. It's all about being human. So hit that subscribe button. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And let's embark on this journey together.
Let's get back into it.
Okay, so I checked out your website, crazyantmedia, I'm assuming.com. I don't remember.
Yeah.
One of the things that it says about your company is that you guys feel like storytelling is a catalyst for change. How so?
So basically, I mean, this is kind of lead into our short film that we put out recently. It's a bridge to start a conversation. You know, I always like to coin the phrase from Emmanuel Acho, who used to be a football player, but now is a sports analyst and also does uncomfortable conversations with a black man on YouTube. I really enjoy bridging that gap to the point where you can be comfortable being uncomfortable with conversations. You're not going to sit down at the dinner table and talk about suicide, or you're not going to sit down and talk about abortion or rape or those type of things. But if you watch a film that has to deal with one of those subject matters and you walk out of the theater with the group of people that you came with, you're going to have those conversations. You're going to be inspired and enlightened to talk about those different subject matters. So that's what we want to do with our films and our storytelling, is to be able to have people walk out of the room, walk out of the theater, and start those conversations. It doesn't necessarily have to be a long conversation, but at least that conversation is being had. And if it turns into a long conversation, or the special thing that probably happens to maybe 5% or less than people, they get so inspired by a film that they walk out of there wanting to create a difference or wanting to create a change in society that they know, whether that be, you know, start a nonprofit or anything like that. That is what we're trying to inspire to do. We get inspired by others, and we just want to have it be a trickle down effect to where it inspires other people. We get inspired by others, and we want to inspire others.
That feeling that you express, people walking out of a movie and feeling like they want to do something, they want to make a change. That's how I felt when I heard the Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror.
Yeah.
Because like the song goes, I guess, all of the change that you can do starts with yourself.
Yeah.
And so, it starts with the person that you see in the mirror. And speaking of mirrors, why is it important that productions act as a mirror reflecting the complexities, diversity, and evolving dynamics of our current society? Why do you think it's important that the productions reflect that?
Well, everybody has different experiences with things, right? Everybody grows up in different environments, though some may be similar, but no one really has your exact story, right, Steve? So it's one of those things to where you want to bring everybody's perspective to the story to where they can see where everybody else has come from. So you can see different people's perspectives. That's what we like to do with the company itself. So you can see different people's perspectives, because the way I tell stories is not the same way that someone else tells stories. Are either one of them wrong? No, they're just different ways to tell that same story. So I feel like to be able to tell the best possible situation, or even a situation that the only 1%, the only 5% of people can relate to, I think that's very important, because there's a lot of stories that I feel like some people cannot relate to. So to be able to tell the different types of aspects of different things, I feel like is very important. Man, these are great questions, by the way. I mean, bravo to you. I just have to applaud those real quick, because they're very enlightening and they're very thought-provoking. I've been on a couple of different podcasts, and I really enjoy your question asking.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I want to take a side trip. Let's take a road trip.
Okay.
You're planning a wedding.
Yes.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second of all, congratulations for being the kind of guy who's going to roll up his sleeves and help plan a wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Usually that falls into the domain of the bride.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like you're getting dirty too. Where did you meet your wife? And don't tell me it's my business partner's daughter.
Well, I'll give you the classic love story. She did come into the television station after a night at a concert. She went to a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert, and she came in the next day, and we worked the morning shift, right? So we were there at 4:00 in the morning. So she's groggy eyed.
Was she working there?
She was not. She was just there with her dad, because her dad also went to the concert, and she was barely awake. I walk in and I'm just like, because I've heard about her before from her father, because we had talked back and forth. And I'm just like, oh, you look a little tired over there. I cannot say this better than it was. And it was so romantic. She said, fuck yeah, I'm tired. And that was it right there. I was like, oh, I'm in love. No, I'm just kidding. It's one of those things where I felt like my type of admiration and my type of showing affection is kind of messing with people. If I know I can mess with you a little bit, if you can push back, I know I found somebody in my tribe. She is the best at that. Anytime I give her any sort of flack about anything, she is quick-witted and she is able to come right back at me. But that's not to say that we don't have endearing times as well. You know, we've been to travel all over the country and been able to see all the different sites. It's been amazing to build this life with someone else. Don't get me wrong. I am definitely the follower when it comes to planning the wedding because it is her lead. Whatever she wants to do, I am here for it. Just let me know my position and I will get it done as best as I can. It's been an amazing thing because throughout my 20s, I've always been like, I want a partner to go through life with. And, like I said, mental health has been a big thing for me. And I have gone through a lot of anxieties and depressions and loneliness just from not being with someone or not feeling like I can talk to someone. So to finally be able to have that person to talk to and to be able to throw anything against the wall and see what sticks and see what other stuff is just temporary anxieties, I feel like has been very special for me. And to be able to grow with each other as well, because we've been together for a little over 5 years, being able to grow into more adults than where we started. We were kind of just kids when we got together. And now we're able to start thinking about having a family in the next couple of years and think about all the different possibilities that our life may bring to us. So it's been an amazing ride and I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else.
That's beautiful. What's her name?
Her name is Emily.
Best wishes, Emily.
Thank you.
I think it's important, Logan, that you grow together.
Yeah.
As a couple. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but there are those people who, when they grow apart.
Yeah.
So hold on to that fire, hold on to that flame and that passion, and hold on to each other because quite literally, it's going to be you and her against the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I feel like it's hard for people to get personal like that. So I appreciate you. But yeah, I really appreciate that because, I'm trying to be a sponge and absorb all the information I can right now.
Back to Crazy Ant Media. So as far as I understand this, Crazy Ant Media is basically a production house. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Right now, currently in the works, as far as I understand, you have an hour-long drama series, which is I'm assuming a television show. You have a short film, a feature film, and a half-hour animated comedy. Is that a series?
It is.
Okay, so you're spinning these plates, but also under the Crazy Ant Media head, you guys have 2 podcasts?
Yes, sir.
One is about, I guess, the industry, and you have guests, and sometimes you guys talk about the box office. What is that one called?
That one is called Inside the Crazy Ant Farm. It is a long name, so we abbreviate it to ITCAF Podcast, ITCAF Podcast. That one's very fun. We've been doing that for about 6 years.
Who's we? Is it you and Dustin?
Myself and Dustin. Yeah, we started out with like 7 or 8 people that were on different projects at the beginning of Crazy Ant. But then, creative differences happen and people move on to do different things. So it dwindled down to just Dustin and myself. But we found our rhythm and we found our flow and have had 200 guests on. Black Friday, we're going to be releasing our 200th guest.
So is that the 200th episode?
And it is not.
Okay.
We've done 242 episodes so far.
Congratulations. A lot of people
Thank
don't
you.
get past 100. Shit, a lot of people don't get past 10. So good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, that's been an amazing journey. And it's really been able to open up my personality as well. Because I'm sure you're not able, well, maybe you are, because you're a very intuitive guy. But I used to be very shy. I used to be very closed off, very closed book. And I didn't like to really talk to people about myself. I left that to Dustin because he's a talker. But yeah, it really helped me open up my personality and be able to talk to people. So I'm thankful for the podcast for that. And then, yeah, our other one is a mental health podcast that we have done, I believe, 17 or 18 episodes that started in 2023.
What's that one called?
It's called Everything's Okay. And that one varies from topics from loss of loved ones to depression to parenting to bipolar to breakups, that type of different thing. Any type of topic or situation that weighs on your mental health, which, let's be honest about it, can be anything, becomes the topic on this podcast, which was inspired by the passing of my friend who lost his battle with mental health. I felt compelled and felt inspired to start this podcast in tribute to him.
Well, I am so sorry about losing your friend. That is tough. You're doing the Lord's work.
Thank you.
Getting that topic out there and talking about those different realms of mental health. Like you said, somewhere at the top of the show, we don't really talk about that as a society. We kind of sweep that stuff under the rug or throw that in the closet. So it's great to shine a light. I don't know who said it first, but I heard it from the director, Kevin Smith. One of his sayings is light a candle rather than curse the darkness. I feel like that's what you're doing with this mental health podcast. Instead of just, grumbling about the stuff that we don't talk about, you're actually shining a light on it. You're lighting a candle in the face of these dark times. Tell me again what the name of that podcast is.
Everything's Okay.
How was that not already taken for a podcast name?
Well, it was taken by another group of guys that I did research, and it looked like they hadn't released a video in a couple of years, or at least an episode in a couple of years. So I was like, I feel like this is free game, and like our artworks are completely different and the subject matter is completely different as well. I believe theirs is just like two guys shooting the shit, talking about sports and different things like that. And like theirs was like orange and with like some cartoon characters and things like that. And ours is light blue with silhouettes of characters. So I felt like, people would be able to differentiate the two different podcasts, even if they were to come out with more episodes. So I felt like it was free game.
Do you know if they have come out with any more episodes after you started your show?
Not that I know of. I haven't done any research on it, but not that I know of.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors. Let's get back into it.
I got to ask you too, because you're very informed about a lot of these things. I am also an interviewer, so it's hard. It's weird for me not to ask questions, but are you more of a movie or music guy, or do they kind of just intertwine for you?
It's a great question. I love movies. I love television and film. I love a good story.
Right.
Hell, I love a bad story.
Yeah.
I just love a story. But I don't really get to watch movies as much as I used to.
Right.
I have my own business, and that takes up obviously a lot of time. And then this podcast takes up the rest of it.
I understand that.
I mean, I haven't been to a movie theater since before COVID.
Oh, wow.
2, 3, 4 weeks before the world shut down.
Yeah. But still, at least like 3 years, right? I mean, at least 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely. And now, I guess we just wait for things to stream.
That's it.
But as far as music, I love music. I'm all about music. Growing up, my dad was in rock and roll bands my whole life. My sister sings like a bird. She sounds beautiful when she sings.
That's awesome.
My dad plays bass and guitar and sings and always has. I've never been able to do any of those things. I am about as musically inclined as a buffalo. But I just love music. I listen to all sorts of music.
Yeah.
And obviously the name of my show comes from The Cure. It has nothing to do with The Cure other than the fact that I was cleaning my house one day and I had headphones on and I was listening to The Cure, that particular song, Fascination Street. I was cleaning my house, but I was also trying to decide whether or not I was going to start a podcast. And then once I did decide I was going to start a podcast, I needed a name. It came out of my genuine fascination to hear other people's stories. And so that's really what it is, take a walk down Fascination Street as we get to know the guest. So that's where the name came from. But I was the first person to have a podcast called Fascination Street. There's 2 or 3 or 4 more out there now.
Yeah. I love your artwork too, by the way. I think that one works really well.
Thank you. I created that. I didn't draw it, but I designed it.
Nice.
Let's get back to you, bruh. Why did you decide to get into podcasting? You're spinning so many other plates. Why add another one or 2?
Well, this is very interesting because we actually, like I said, we started the entertainment one so we could talk to guests. And it was kind of supposed to be a bridge for making connections in the entertainment industry. Because I know you've heard this too. It's all about who you know rather than what you know. But we both know it's more of a balance of both. So we started to do that so we could interview guests so that we could get our foot in the door so these people would know who we are. Because not only do we interview actors and actresses, but we interview directors and we interview executives and, people who do sound design and different aspects of the entertainment industry that could possibly help us get our foot in the door for our projects. So every time, either before, in the middle, or after a show, we would talk to them about ourselves and tell them who we are, basically pitching ourselves to them. But then we realized we've gotten so many emails and so many comments from different people who are trying to break into the entertainment industry. We realized that we're not doing this for us. We're doing this for those people who need a one-stop shop for all of this information, because we've been on red carpets before to where we're talking about all sorts of different aspects of the entertainment industry. And that's what our show does, ItCap Podcast. It gives you all of that information. It gives you all the industry news with the stock market and how different companies vary when different decisions come out and how Wall Street takes that. We talk about executive change ups, but then we talk about fun stuff like, of course, superhero news, who gets attached to what project, and all of these different things that are being put on streaming services or taken off streaming services, what get canceled after one season, and all of these different things. So it started off for us, but then it turned into for those who are breaking into the entertainment industry. That's what Crazy Ant Media is about, lending the helping hand for those who are trying to break into it.
New Orleans has a huge film and television industry.
Yes.
I can't count on my fingers and toes how many people that I've interviewed or had on my show that are in and around New Orleans. You are the place to be.
Yeah, we love it. I love the culture here too. I mean, there's just something different about it. Have you ever been to New Orleans?
So many times.
Yeah.
The very first trip that my wife and I went on, we went to Laredo for the weekend, and then we came back because we had to go to a party. And then immediately, as soon as the party was over, we went to New Orleans, and it was the first time I had ever been there.
Yeah.
Subsequently, I think we went to New Orleans probably like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times.
Nice.
And then the big hurricane happened, and I don't think we've been there since then.
Yeah.
My wife is in Mary Kay, and a few times Mary Kay would have a huge kind of an area-wide seminar kind of a thing, and it would be in New Orleans, and I'd be like,
okay,
I'm going.
Right.
I'm going this time too. So we love New Orleans.
Awesome.
One of my favorite pictures of both of us is on that first trip. We took pictures at Cafe du Monde. Man, I look so good in that picture.
You're like, this is my favorite.
This is the one.
Yes.
Tell me about this hour-long drama.
So this one it's parallel. Of course, it's loosely based on Dustin and myself. So it's basically about an old school studio exec trying to teach the ways of the entertainment industry to a young guy who is familiar with social media. But then along the way, we learn that they're actually learning more about each other's different aspects instead of one teaching the other. It's kind of a balancing act. So it's loosely based on myself and Dustin, my business partner, because, you know, we come from different times. I'm a millennial and he's Gen X. There's a lot of gap in between there, 20 plus years, but to be able to balance each other and help each other out in different aspects of the world that neither one of us understands, I guess you could say, to help each other figure it out. So I think that's what it's turned out to be. And there's characters based on our real life as well. And it's just something that I feel like has been really fun because people have always enjoyed shows about the entertainment industry, right? Entourage was a huge thing, obviously based on an actor and his entourage. But people love that because you got to see real places in LA. You got to see real celebrities who really wanted to be on that show because it was so true to that lifestyle. And that's what we're trying to do here too, to where executives and people breaking into the entertainment industry can have a true depiction of what this type of lifestyle is and what it takes to get into this entertainment industry. So it's been a lot of fun writing it. Right now, we are revising episode 5. So we're rocking and rolling, man. We're trying to get a whole season done so that when the new year comes around, we have some insiders at some streamers and at some production companies that we're hoping to pitch it to in the new year. So like I said, we're trying to get at least half the season or the whole season done to where we can have that ready and pitch that thing, man.
So when you say done, you mean written? Not shot, but written?
Yeah, written. We are trying to shoot our pilot as kind of like a proof of concept to where people can see what we're thinking and what we have going on in our head. But that's not necessarily saying that all of these people have to be cast the same,
sure,
right? I mean, that's just part of the business.
Right.
We make sure to tell everybody that they could bring you on to the bigger and better thing, but we're not promising that. And this is what we'll pay you for the proof of concept. And this is what is promised, but this is not. So it's always good to have all the cards out on the table when it comes to this stuff, because I feel like people are, I don't want to say sensitive, but they use their emotions a lot right? Especially in the entertainment industry, as an actor, you have to use your emotions and you have to dig deep. So you wear your emotions on your sleeve. So we like putting everything out on the table.
Nice. Tell me about this short film.
The short film, Deadlines, that we shot previously in Charlotte, North Carolina at Johnson C. Smith University.
I was just in Charlotte 1 month ago.
Oh, wow.
For first time ever.
Nice. It's beautiful. I like it a lot. The worst drivers I've ever seen, but I like it a lot.
I was in the car with one of those terrible drivers.
Oh, goodness.
He's a friend. And it was like, him and his wife, me and mine.
Yeah.
Every time we went anywhere, 3 of us get out of the car going, wow, we lived.
Yeah. It is different, man. Living, like I said, in Indiana and LA to here, New Orleans, like North Carolina, hands down has the worst driver. Not to say that they don't have other good things. Like I said, we were talking about the film. It's called Deadlines. It's on our YouTube channel, and we did submit it to short film festivals. It's kind of a social justice movie when it comes to hate speech and bullying and mental health and gun violence and suicide prevention and interracial lesbian couple. So we're throwing all of these things in this one big melting pot for an entertaining story that can bridge for a conversation. But it was amazing. It was an amazing time. It was a weekend shoot. The whole thing is 10 minutes long, and there's a twist ending.
Oh, what's the twist?
We can't tell you that. We can't tell you that. We edited it to black and white because, as film lovers, we got inspired by 12 Angry Men, the original, with the Daddy Fonda, as I like to call him, where the emotion gets more and more tense and you see the screen tighten and get shorter and shorter on people's faces. So we kind of were inspired by that, and we implemented that in our storytelling and filmmaking to where the audience could really feel that. I would definitely say rated for mature audiences only, because I'm not sure younger ones would understand. And there is a physical gun on there, but we did have an armorer and we checked the barrel every single time. I always like to say that now after the Rush shooting. But yeah, it was one of those things where it was an amazing first on-set experience for myself. Everybody else had been on set before, but this was my first time ever on set. It was my directorial debut. Dustin and I co-directed the film. To be able to get behind the camera and, talk to the director of photography, the cinematographer, about the different shots that I had in my brain. And that's where Dustin and I kind of balance ourselves very well, because I see things through a frame and he is very actor driven. So he is able to get the emotions out of actors while I am able to get the shots and creative vision out of the cinematographer. So that's how we balance each other very well.
Love that. Okay, so that was Deadlines. Now you have a feature film.
Yes. So we're trying to collaborate with a whole bunch of different people, and we have a couple of different ideas right now on what we could put out there next, right? Because we feel like a short film, we can knock that out very quickly, pre-production, post-production, all those good things. But a feature, this is a lot of time and effort. And we have an interesting storyline that is going to span generations. I want to create something to where generational trauma is seen throughout these 4 films, or these 3 films, however many we turn them into. So it's basically going to start in the 50s and 60s is the first film, carrying into the 70s and 80s, into the 90s and early 2000s, and then to where the 4th film ends up in current day. And we see how one family generation decision affects the rest of the years down the line on the parents, the grandparents, the grandkids, all of these different things. So it's a very story-driven film. Like I said, we're starting out in the 50s and 60s, and that's the one we're writing right now. It's very interesting. I try to go back and do my research on the lingo specifically because, dialogue, it's very important. So I try to go back and see about the lingo. It kind of makes me cringe a little bit because there is certain situations to where sexism does come into play because it is that time period.
Like, look at the gams on that broad.
Yep, exactly. I actually have...
He's got nice tomatoes. Like that?
I've got a specific thing where it references exactly what you're referencing in one of the first couple scenes. So it's one of those things to where, you want to be truthful to the time, but you also don't want to overstep the boundary. So it's been very interesting to balance that, but we're still in very early development on that first script. So I can't talk too much about it, but we're very excited now that the strikes are over to get back and be able to put this thing out there because I think it's a very interesting story.
Love it. Now, this is a phrase I didn't think I would say. You also have a half-hour animated comedy series.
Yes.
Animated? What?
Yes. I love it. I mean, I love adult animation first and foremost. I grew up sneaking to watch Family Guy at night. It was one of my things. Seth MacFarlane is one of my biggest inspirations. I love that guy. And I just feel like, as we've been talking about all of our other different stories, they're very dramatic and they're very social justice and they always send a message. But with the animated comedy, we can just have a fun story that makes people laugh. And I think that's what we're trying to depict. And that's what we're going to put out there for people to just sit back, forget about their life for about 30 minutes and laugh, because there's not enough laughter in the world. Over the past couple of years, since the pandemic, I've gotten really big into stand-up comedy and different animated comedies. I want to tell a story like this to where you don't have to be so in the nitty-gritty of mental health, even though it is important. And like we've been talking about, very big advocate doing the Lord's work. But it's one of those things to where we also need a break every now and then. There's nothing wrong with taking a 30-minute break. So yeah, we're very excited about that one. We have all the characters designed out, but now we're looking for an animator and we have the first script ready to where we can actually shoot this thing, but we're just looking for an animator and looking to hop on some hot mics and create some voices, because we don't necessarily know our voices yet. So that's been a fun experience to try to experiment with.
That sounds rad as hell. Wow. You have a lot of irons in the fire, my man.
You're only living once, okay? So I'm just trying to...
Hold on, let me write this down. You only live... Somebody should make a catchphrase out of that.
They really should. I'm going to coin it. I'm going to copyright it. Not like those other guys for the other podcasts, but I'm going to copyright it to where nobody can take this phrase.
That's funny. Well, Logan, tell everybody where they can find you on social media and hit the name of your company and your podcasts again for me.
Yes, of course. Of course. You can find me at J Logan Austin on all social media platforms. I have it all underneath the same name. And then you can find the company at Crazy Ant Media on all social media platforms. And then you can find both podcasts at ITCAF Podcast, ITCAF Podcast, and everything's OKP, the letters OKP on all social media platforms.
Love it. And also you have a YouTube channel, yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The YouTube channel is at Crazy Ant Media as well. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like all the videos, and stay up to date with everything that we have going on at Crazy Ant Media.
Were you reading that just now?
No, I've just gotten so used to that it's kind of how I say it on our podcast. So it's like the back of my hand right now.
Yeah, at the beginning, I had to write all that shit down.
Yeah.
And then I sounded like a complete and total asshole when I was trying to read it.
Exactly. You sound so scripted. And then you finally get your flow and you're like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for.
And what's funny is sometimes, I'll start into something that should be a flow. And then I have a hiccup and then I get all lost and confused and have to start over like a complete and total tool.
Yeah, me too.
Logan, before I let you go, is there anything we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you about that you specifically wanted to talk about today? Like, did I miss anything?
No, I don't believe so, but I did want to leave everybody with a story, I guess you could say. Kind of like an inspiring story. It won't take up too much of the time. So when we were first starting out, we wanted to make a presence in LA. It is very important to be seen out there and to be able to take meetings out there, because it's all about who you know more than what you know, kind of that balance. So we took a 3-day trip from the New Orleans area, which is about 25 hours to get to LA. We drove all the way there. We stayed there for about 4 or 5 hours, and then we came back and went to work the next day. That's how inspired we were to be able to be seen out there, to be able to take these meetings that we have been corresponding with people back and forth. But it's all about being able to put your mind to something and get it done. I think that's what's most important. We don't really tell that story often, but that 3-day trip to LA and back was absolutely adrenaline rushed. I mean, we were all sleeping in the car while other people were driving, and probably wasn't necessarily the safest thing to do, but it's one of my all-time favorite stories from us, because it shows us that if we put our mind to something, we can get it done. Each one of us had $300 in our pocket for gas, food. And with $900, we were able to spend about 4 or 5 hours out in LA and come home and have an amazing story to tell. So I always like to say that, if you put your mind to something, you'll be able to get it done.
Well, what a wonderful story to go out on, my man. Jay, Logan Austin, Logan from Crazy Ant Media. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day and your hectic writing all these series and films and animated comedies and stuff schedule to hang out and let us get to know you a little bit better on Fascination Street, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I've been a fan of the show for a while now, and to finally be able to coordinate this time, it's been amazing. And to talk to other like-minded individuals, you're hilarious. You're very intuitive with everything that's going on. So I appreciate your time too. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, my man. Good Lord. All right, buddy. Again, everybody go check out Crazy Ant Media. You heard him. They're in all the places. Make sure you click and subscribe or smash that subscribe button on YouTube at their site. Dude, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough, dude. This was a blast. Like you said, it was a long time coming, and I'm glad we finally got it done. So thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time, and you have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.
Again, congratulations on your impending nuptials, dude. You're going to have a blast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll be in touch.
And if you are ever out this way, holler at a fat kid. Maybe we can go have some coffee.
Dude, that would be so much fun. I would appreciate that.
Absolutely. Take it easy, buddy.
All right, brother.
Bye.
Bye.
Opening music is the song FSP Theme, written, performed, and provided by Ambush Vin.
Closing music is from the song Say My Name off the 2021 album Underdog Anthems, used with permission from Jax Hollow. If you like the show, tell a friend. Subscribe and rate and review the show on iTunes and wherever else you download podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there as well. Check me out on Vero at Fascination Street Pod and TikTok at Fascination Street Pod. And again, thanks for listening.